I don't remember any of the shooting. Just one minute I was riding the motorbike, the next minute I was waking up in the hospital.
You couldn't believe it. Right across the street from the church, and 2 of our kids shot.
I just heard that, you know, the noise upset the man. He couldn't handle the noise, and he was tired of it. And, you know, I guess some people have their short fuse.
I can't say what he thought or what, you know, why he did what he did, but these boys weren't doing anything wrong. They weren't breaking the law. They were on their own property. They were riding dirt bikes. Maybe they were disturbing him watching TV. It was Super Bowl Sunday and he may have been watching the game, but that's not a reason to go out and shoot 2 boys off of dirt bikes.
But apparently, the neighbor, who was apparently crazy, but we didn't know about it, thought we were making too much noise. So he came out with a shotgun and he waited for us to come over a little rise. And Trey came over with on his bike first, and he shot and killed Trey. And then when I came over the little rise, he shot me in the head, making me a quadriplegic.
You've got to remember that this wasn't Green Oaks. There was really nothing out here. This was almost county.
I was inside downstairs, and I heard 2 shots, what I thought was either 2 shots or some kind of a small explosion. I didn't know for sure, but I was concerned about my kids out on the driveway playing. So I ran out the front door to look for Cody, my son, and I looked straight ahead and saw Trey laying on the ground. I looked for Cody, and he came running down to me. He says, "Mama, Mama, that man shot that boy." And I grabbed Cody, and then I looked at Trey, and then I looked and saw Tiedemann. Tiedemann was not looking at me. It was as if he were in a trance. And he was holding the gun, and he was looking at Trey as if he was waiting for Trey to get up or move.
And as I understand it, Mr. Tiedemann, who had obviously been enraged about it before, in that we learned later that he was responsible for the death of a horse that we had in our barn. It had been shot, and we didn't realize it until the vet said that. Hid behind the tree or whatever, or maybe just stood there, I'm not sure which, and chose to shoot the boys as they rode up on their bikes to that part of the land.
And I screamed as loud as I could, "You idiot," and, you know, probably more than once. And my heart started pounding, and I knew I had to get my child out of the way and get help. And I heard Kevin coming, and I heard his dirt bike. I was so fearful that the same thing was going to happen to Kevin. And by the time I got to the corner of the garage and started screaming as loud as I could, Kevin was already down. He very calmly just lowered his gun and turned around and walked off to his house. Very calmly, wasn't in a hurry, like, I did it, and I'm glad I did it. And he just walked away.
The Shelton boy was laying in this area right in here. And I got to him first, and not to be too graphic, but it appeared that he was already deceased, just from all the visible signs and all. And the other thing that I remember as I got to him is I could still hear the other boy over here breathing. I could hear him making some noise, and there was some motion, some movement over there. So I knew he was still alive.
We would not have Kevin if it were not for the Arlington Police Department.
Oh,
not
absolutely.
Any question about it. And particularly the 2 individuals who placed themselves in harm's way the day of the shooting.
But about the time I got to him, I could hear the ambulance getting close. And I knew they couldn't see me down in here, or didn't know where I needed them to come. One of the things that sticks in my mind is told him, hang in there, I'll be right back with you. I'll be back with you. I'm going to get some help.
This police officer, using the car as a shield, drove down to where the boys were and shielded Kevin, who he realized was still alive.
He was still breathing. I could still hear some sound from him, and they got him on the gurney.
Tiedemann was in such a trance. When I first came out and screamed at him, he could have shot me, because he knew, had he had any presence of mind, that Cody and I were the only ones that witnessed this. And I just, for the safety of my child, and I was just afraid that he might shoot me. But what has stuck in my mind all this time is that he was locked. He was locked in a trance looking at Trey. And he was so bent on doing away with this obnoxious situation that I think that he just didn't care. He didn't care. He didn't care who saw him.
But I got to where I was, fairly well covered by this building, and I stayed here, and I could hear them setting up perimeter units all around us, all around me from this point. He came out of his front door, down his porch, or across his porch and down the steps. He acted like he wasn't really paying attention to anything. Turned out he had a weapon, a shotgun, just in his hands down along the right side of his body. And he pulled it up and he fired 2 or 3 rounds into a northeasterly direction. I heard the tactical sergeant supervisor ask, was that shots fired? And somebody said, yes, it was. And the tactical supervisor, he used the term, we have a green light. The TAC commander ordered the gas man to put gas into the windows on the north side of the house. Pretty shortly, he came out onto the porch, and he laid down on the porch, and he fired a couple of shots. I could see muzzle flash. By this time, it was very close to dark. The TAC officers over here to my right returned fire, and I heard the suspect scream again, and he went down. I believe they said the suspect was deceased by that time.
Some people know I've kind of dreamed of being a cowboy. I grew up that way, and I have a little bit of that mentality. I would have had a hard time going through a trial and understanding that he had a good chance of being acquitted for what he did, and if so, was it not my duty to punish him in a similar manner to the way he had punished Trey?